standard play. Either way, we're loading into our first map here, which is going to be Alcyone as in the bottom left here, spawning as our red Zerg player. Playing for Team Vitality, it is Solar.
And his opponent in the top right, the blue Terran player from Poland, representing Navi, it is Spirit.
All right. Beautiful stuff. As we have... what is this gonna be, Lambo? Talk to me.
It's a 15 hatch. So this 15 hatch is specifically good against something like 2 Rex Reaper. It's generally good if you end up getting away with gasless. And this is one of the maps where it is actually reasonable to go gasless on, because the third base is so close to the natural. You can kind of wall the natural, have the queens in the front. Don't really need early link speed to defend anything. On top of it, Spirit is known to play CC first. So... and also not known to run by cars, by the way. He's playing it very safe with the cars. He usually opts to only go on the map with 2 cars until he has a full wall at the natural, and try to do nice scouting with the cars that he has at home, so his Hellions at home. So I think this is just playing the player here from Solar, and a smart opener. Just skipping the link speed because he doesn't need it, and then getting out more live with a 15 hatch. Also being a little bit safer against the potential proxy Rex, which Spirit also likes to do.
Yeah, so really covering all of his bases well here, as the next drone is already going downstairs. Just gonna check maybe to see if there's anything down, or why are you long distance mining at this point already? It's a bit early, no?
Because you're oversaturated in the main base, so I think he just does it. It would theoretically be better if, especially with the first drone, he would have mined once and triple stacked it, but that doesn't really give you a whole lot of... You get 5 minerals very slightly
3.5
faster.
minerals more. I don't know, Lambo. That sounds like a lot of minerals to me.
That's not even how it works, though.
Nah, that is pretty sure that's how it works. 3.5 minerals. That's what he would have gotten.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Can't wait to try this next time. I want to see my mineral coin go up by 3.
And a half.
And a half,
yeah. 4.
I want to see 0.5.
Yeah. All right. Double command centers here are out, of course. Because this was a CC first into the Reaper, into the factory. And Solar's gonna try to maybe get the Ling run by in. Does the Spirit always get the Reaper with this?
He likes to do it very frequently. It's important for CC first players to mix it up, because if you go CC first with a Marine, you are very unsafe against someone that just runs across the map with his 4 defensive Zerglings. And if you go with a Reaper, you obviously punish the Zerg that goes across the map with the first 4 Zerglings. So you kind of gotta mix those up. The Reaper is theoretically a little bit more greedy against stuff like 1 base villains, also pull first Roach because the factory is just a little bit later. But we are not seeing any of that, so this is completely fine for Spirit. He basically got away with the greediest opener possible. That being said, it's not super greedy. Like, you need to blindly punish this, and Zerg, this is why we see so much CC first now. It's really not that easy to punish. And yeah, I actually had a Zerg ask me yesterday as well how to punish this from the Katowice players. It's not that simple.
Yeah, it really isn't. Reaper's now going to make its way across the map. It's going to see that the hatchery is done already. Lack of speed on top of all of that. Meanwhile, Spirit with a 3rd CC is going to swap the starport over to the tech lab. We expecting Banshees, Ravens, something along those lines.
Probably Banshees.
Okay.
Yeah, this is his most standard opener. He also used a lot of 2 starport battlecruiser builds recently against Elaser on this map, so he could play to that and maybe hide his first 2 Banshees. I don't expect him to move out with the first Banshee because of it, so maybe Solar will over-prepare a little bit for potential battlecruisers, because he opened like this almost every game against Elaser at a Polish LAN 1 week ago or 1.5 weeks ago.
Yeah, I think it was a week ago.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah, so along those lines. All right, let's have a look. Creep is just spreading. We have these 2 cars on the map. Next 2 cars coming out as well. The depot wall is starting over at home. We're not really expecting mech behind this, right? Spirit is a player that has just playing an absolute crap ton of bio. He feels like someone that could, you know, try mech, but he's never really played it much in TVZ, has he?
He has not, no. He is usually the type of player that tries something once, and the moment it doesn't work, he thinks it's not viable anymore. So then he goes back to the standard builds or trying to play new builds. That maybe is one of the reasons he plays so many new builds, because whenever something doesn't work anymore, he just tries to figure out something else. Which I don't think is very different to some other players, because usually you would just make a mistake and you think, okay, it didn't work because of this X mistake that I made. But he thinks about the game a little bit differently, so that's why you don't really see a lot of mech from him.
Yeah. Double E-base, double Evo chambers. Fast lair coming out of Solar behind this, or a reasonably quick lair. We're just expecting... Honestly, even Solar knows how predictable he is in this matchup, and he jokes about it. I'm kind of expecting just Hydra Ling Bane into Viper, throwing down a Lurker then, pretending to build Lurkers, maybe even go for a Nidus or a fake Nidus, and then back into Hydra Ling Bane Viper and playing that till it fails or till it wins. That generally is the game plan that Solar employs in this matchup. And the fact that I'm aware of this, the fact that Solar is aware of it, that I'm aware of it, like everyone basically knows this, right? This shouldn't come as a surprise here to Spirit. That being said, what would be the best way to kind of counter this? Because it's just a very standard style, but are there any tricks that he could pull? Is there anything in particular we're looking at, like, oh, this is maybe where Solar would be weak?
Not really, as you said, it's just standard, right? The way Solar is approaching the game, he plays this matchup extremely standard, so there shouldn't be any holes in his play. You just gotta outplay your opponent if you want to take it to him straight up. You can obviously try to surprise him in the early game, and Spirit is going for one thing that's very uncommon, which is a 4th CC very early after the first 3 barracks. So he's trying to just get up that macro and camp from the get-go, pretty much. He can try to go for one tank move out, because the initial 5 barracks are delayed, but the initial 3 barracks are still producing those Marines from the same timing on. So I think he's going to move out a little bit there, but do it rather passively, and then just try to play late game from there. So Spirit says, okay, if you try to kill me with Hydra Ling Bane, I'll greet that. I'll just sit on my base, and in my bases, I'll try to set up well defensively, and then we'll see if you can kill me or not.
Yeah, exactly. So this push is going to hit the exact same timing with the exact same strength as a standard push would hit. That 4th base did not really change that timing at all. However, because barracks 4 and 5 are delayed, any follow-up is going to be weaker. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So, yeah. The thing is, maxing out early doesn't really matter that much when you're camping. It's mostly the factory count that matters. So getting up the earlier 4 CC also will allow him to get earlier extra CCs. And yeah, it theoretically should set him up for success. The thing is, the Zerg is completely untouched. Solar was free to drone up to 82 drones. Could have even went higher if he wanted to. And he's not trading. And the thing is, Terran can basically trade for free because they can usually load up. Hydras are not fast enough to reliably catch medevacs. So if anything, if you commit across the map, you might lose your factory units, but you should always save your Marines. And that's why Terran should fight for map control, because they don't really have anything to lose, because they also are supposed to trade well and trade cost effectively, which Spirit does a lot less than basically any other Terran.
Yeah, let's have a drop on the left side, which so far is going unchecked. Solar setting up a pretty large run by, maybe even trying to clear that planetary if he gets the opportunity for it. Right now, Solar not happy to send it quite yet. Good target fire there on that single baneling on that left side. And Spirit's just gonna pick up and piss off. No sensor tower here yet. Double Banshees. I don't think that's quite going to be enough, is it, Lambo?
It's not quite going to be enough, no. And the 5th base is being produced here, which is a mistake as well, because it's right next to where Planetary is, where run by is hitting, so the CC gets cancelled, the 4th base gets killed. At the very least, he doesn't lose that many SCVs, he kills a bunch of Zerglings. It is not the end of the world, but that's really good for Solar.
Yeah, not the hottest start here for Spirit. 6 workers going down, that base falling as well, and as you mentioned, that 5th base being taken out on top of it. It's just not been brilliant. Spirit right now, maybe as a response, is unsieging all of his tanks. It's going to start moving across the map. How viable is this push out?
Well, we're about to see. If he takes it very slow, I think it has some potential, because he cleared some creep over here already. If he starts to commit on creep, I think he's going to get eaten alive, because Solar's 2-2 will finish, and he will have very high baning count. So even though his Hive is relatively late and his Vipers might not be out in time, I don't think that Spirit can do much here. I think he agrees, and he thinks twice about this and doesn't decide to go for it. Instead, just starts up Ghost production, starts up extra CCs. This is more the Spirit that we know. Going back to his original plan here.
Yeah. 4th base did start on the well, just on position, which is kind of risky. If at any point a link round by head come by, you get another cancel on that base. Spirit is in some economic trouble there. As we see more and more command centers being added on, that 2-2 is about to finish up. They're really starting to set up for a longer and late game. Solar, usually not a guy that lets it go there, though. If he smells an opportunity, if he sees a way to bust his opponent, he's gonna take it. There's 43 Banes out right now. We don't have any Vipers yet, which does surprise me, especially given the very high tank count. Drop on the left side is gonna take out this hatchery. Solar is already expanding towards the goal, towards the rich Vespine geyser base, so losing a hatch is not gonna be the end of the world. He's gonna have plenty of mining, he has a bank, he's still maxed out. I'm not very worried for Solar here, although these queens on the right side might just end up falling.
Yeah, Spirit does have a nice setup once it takes the gold base. It's very difficult for Solar to do anything on the other side of the map because there are 2 sensor towers and the natural is well covered, so I think the difficulty for Spirit will not so much be the first 5 bases, but will be afterwards. And one thing that I would love to see from Solar himself is starting to expand towards Spirit's side of the map. Like, already take the base at the bottom right-hand side, not this one, but the one to the top right of that. So the bases that Spirit is supposed to be taking, and the top left rich gas base as well from Spirit. Because those are the bases that the game will run towards. Like, this is where... those are basically deciding bases towards the end game. If Spirit just sits there and camp.
Yeah. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense to me, as we have a lot of links here moving forward. No Vipers yet with this army. Banelings connecting with quite a bit. Hydra's moving in as well. It's these Overseers staying alive. Ghost count is surprisingly low here, by the way. Only at 5. 42 Marines are out. I'm not a huge fan of this army that Spirit has so far.
Yeah, it's not the worst because Solar is still only on Ling Bane Hydra Viper, right? So the Marines are actually kind of important. But yeah, definitely the more Ghosts, the better. Ghosts are also good against Zerglings. Even against Banelings, they're very, very cost effective. So having them is good. But I believe that Solar will be the one that has to attack. So in that case, being maxed out on a non-perfect army is not the absolute worst, because he will still he still has the capability of trading cost effectively on his side of the map. As Solar is running into Spirit's army, Spirit's trying to pull back towards the bottom. Solar realizes most of his tanks are there, and yeah, I mean, there's planetaries, tanks everywhere. This is exactly what Spirit is very good at. That one planning cloud was very good though. He got a nice trade there.
The freaking planetary between the natural and the third makes me so happy. He's like, you know, he's not letting anything happen back to him. He has good tank positions as well. Like, even these tanks on the right here, like the one hidden behind the refinery. I love that eBay in between the gold minerals as well, kind of acting as rocks. And Spirit, he's just playing a very simple game of SimCity. He's going to rebuild his bunker. He's going to rebuild some of these depots as well. And every time Solar's going to come in, Spirit says, hey, that's going to be a good trade for me right now. Oh, hold that thought, as we might have another engagement. No, Solar's just going to lose a couple of units. Right now, the resources lost is 6k against basically 12k. So Solar doubling in the resources lost. And usually in this game, doubling something is good, but not when it comes to resources lost. Nidus is going to go up in the main base, though. Spirit not entirely ready for it. There are no Liberators out, no tanks in position. And now the Ghost count at 10. I'm not sure if that is high enough to just easily clear this Lambo.
It is not, and Solar, realizing that Spirit has to move towards the main base to defend the Lurkers, also tries to engage at the front, gets rid of a couple of the tanks. That Lurker Knight is not supposed to go up. Solar obviously engaged as a distraction for not only Hearthstone, but also for Spirit, who didn't pay attention, and then the Nidus Worm did end up getting up, and it's very difficult to clear without Liberators. Once you have the Liberators, so you can see even just one Liberator is so good at clearing up those Lurkers cost effectively.
Lambo, I want to say that I actually did see it, but to give the original experience to the viewer, you kind of put them in Spirit's shoes, I pretended like I hadn't spotted it quite yet. So the Nidus came as a surprise to the audience as well. That's a technique that they use in film very often.
Okay, my bad. This was more advanced than I thought.
Yeah, don't worry. There's still 2 Nidus in the main base. There's 1 Lurker still shooting as well. Lots of tech labs have gone down, which is obviously going to be frustrating. As a abandoned command center towards the right here probably will resume production at some point. Nidus now going up on the left side. And Solar really... I really like what you said earlier, is that he just needs to try and take some of Spirit's bases because he's not trading well, and so far he's also not been breaking Spirit whatsoever. Spirit once again here has the ability to run back. There's a couple of tanks that are in okay positions. Lightning Cloud is not hitting until now, and I think once more this was absolutely a fine fight here for our Terran player.
Yeah, that was a good fight. I think Solar should just stop engaging into the defenses of Spirit unless he knows he's 100% out of position, which this Nidus might cause. Spirit unsieging the tank, going a little bit closer towards it, also dropping too many expert of units towards it. I think Solar knows he can't unload too many units. Maybe he can try to snipe the one tank, which might set him up for a follow-up Nidus in a little bit. Oh, he actually jumps the gun there a little bit with that extra Nidus, as that one has no chance of surviving whatsoever. Yeah, the moment you take Spirit's bases, Spirit has to move out and away from his SimCity. And that's where you can actually trade. If you try to trade with melee units against range units that sit behind buildings, it usually doesn't go your way. Yeah, I mean, that's how tower defense works as well, right? It would be much easier if the tower defense can SimCity and has to run out in the middle of the field. So in order to force it, you try to take expansions away from Spirit. Let's hold that thought as Solar runs in. This is a much better fight. Spirit microing there a lot at the top side. So Solar gets a decent engagement there. This was the best fight he's taken so far, I think.
Yeah, at the same time, Lurker Nidus once again finishes up. Spirit, however, capable of cleaning this up with just Marine Marauder. As at the same time, we have Hydras poking away at this command center. Will force a cancel. Spirit at some point is going to need to continue expanding, right? I guess his third base is still relatively healthy. That surprises me. His natural is empty, though. His main is practically empty. That gold base is going to be running dry at some point in the future as well. Doesn't have the highest worker count, but still, I feel like it would be nice to get a 6th at some point on that right side location. Something, by the way, that I'm not sure if you'd noticed, but there is no adrenal glands.
I have not noticed that, no, but yeah, it's always a big deal for getting adrenaline glands. In this, it's not quite the biggest deal because the Zerglings kind of die without doing anything. For most of the time, it's more so the Banelings that actually get damage done, but yeah, he really needs to fix that. It kind of looks good for Solar right now, but Solar didn't mind any of the opposing side of the map, so Spirit didn't need to expand fast. Now he's finally taking the base that I wanted him to take a while ago. Good blending cloud there again. Spirit very slow with the EMPs. He could have EMP'd the last couple of fights already and always missed it. Now all the Banelings running forward, trying to zone a little bit. Planetary goes down. This is just a replacement orbital now that goes to take its spot, so it will be a little bit easier to take a good fight here later on. But theoretically, honestly, Solar shouldn't even be getting these good fights here because it's just one angle that he can come from. Like, he always just comes from the same angle, which means Spirit should be there with the entire army. If Terran and Zerg both are at one position with their entire army, the Terran army should always destroy the Zerg army off creep. So yeah, it's, I think, a little bit of a sloppy control from Spirit. Spirit also not crafting the perfect army quite yet. He's still very Marine Marauder heavy, with very few tanks at the front. He actually only has 3 tanks. He kept losing the tanks, so the constant attacks from Solar at least keeping the factory unit count very low.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to see so little Ghosts, so little tanks, and also so little Liberators at this stage of the game. He did manage to clear that base that Solar was taking, that very important base. And let's not forget that Solar is still very far down in units lost. Well, I thought we have another big fight. Viper gonna cast a parasitic bomb here. No planetary to help out. Banelings not quite reaching the Marines. Marauders try to tank a little bit there. I think this orbital command is gonna fall as these Hydras do get to retreat. This once again was a good fight for Solar, or at least felt like a good fight here for Solar. He continuously takes out that base. That gold is running dry, and Solar still has a decent mineral bank here on the bottom right side. He can mine from the top left side base, and Spirit is just having trouble even establishing his own 5th right now. That should not be the case. Spirit at this point in the game should be looking towards a 6th, maybe even dreaming about a 7th, but right now he's still dreaming of a 6th, Lambo, and that's not what you want.
That's absolutely not what you want. I mean, Solar's plan is basically, you want to keep the factory unit count low, you want to keep trading so that Spirit doesn't have a bank, and then once he tries to expand towards the 6th space, he's gonna hammer it home. He's gonna go, remax, go, and that will have to be enough. And he's doing a good job at it, as that Ling Run by hits, and Spirit just repositioned all of his tanks, which means he has enough at the front, so Solar can't engage. He also cloaked all of his ghosts, which is not good, but he loses 14 SCVs to the Ling backstep in his own 3rd base.
Yeah, that's quite a couple of SCVs here. Doesn't mean that his army is going to be bigger, but his army quality, we mentioned it before, still consisting of a lot of Marines in here. 40 Marines. Ghost count has grown, but the tank count is practically non-existent, and that is a huge issue. At the same time, though, the Marine run by, this is rare to see without a medevac, is actually taking out a lot of drones on Solar's side, dealing a decent chunk of damage. That's nice. It's going to buy some time as well. Liberator setting up very far forward. Is this viable, this position that he's taking here? Can he do this?
I mean, the way he has his structures positioned in his natural, he has to take this base. And Solar is trying to exploit this, because if Spirit tries to defend his 6th base, that means his army is very far away from the natural. So I think Solar's main objective should be to bust the natural now, to bust that planetary that is constantly annoying him, and he's trying to do so with the 2 lurkers. I really wouldn't mind a full army rotation from Solar, because he's trying to engage here where Spirit's entire army is positioned. Misclick from Spirit, move commanding everything together. That was not great. If Spirit actually just pressed the A move button there, many more Zerg units would have fallen than they did right now. But yeah, I think Solar should just rotate. There's not even a sensor tower that would spot the rotation early enough. Solar can also give up this base, try to mine the top base. This is a very good fight for Spirit. Solar not paying attention, losing a lot of units before the fight even starts. Solar really needs to just not fight where the entire Terran army is. I know it seems annoying to bust that location in natural because it's a tank and a planetary, but it's just a tank and a planetary. It's even 2 or 3 tanks. You go there with a Viper and your entire army, you should be able to bust this.
Yeah, the planetary also isn't full health at all. It only has 576 HP right now. Solar is outmining that left side, not the gas, just now taking it, as well as taking the top side base that belongs to Spirit. A bunch of Marines are running over there, might be capable of getting another cancel, Ling run by at the same time, forcing this 3rd base to lift and move back. Did every tank just die over there? Or did
I think he moved most tanks. Only a single tank was there and died.
I think Solar realized, after that Ling run by, saw 0 tanks. I think Solar realized, hey, that's actually the weak spot. The right side is where he wants to be right now. And you're not going to be capable of taking out a mining base if you attack into the natural, but you could just clear all the production, and that's probably even better.
You force a rotation. Spirit will never just let his entire main base and natural go down. It's too many structures. He can't afford to lose, because there's still 2 fresh bases on the top that Solar never took. The bottom right, Solar at least mined a little bit from it, but yeah, he should just give up the bottom portion of the map, because he mined out 2 bases there already. The top side is still very fresh. And then once Spirit starts splitting his units again, he can think about denying the 6th base. Oh. But Spirit right now is positioned with his entire army there. Solar just tries to run into it once again. He feels the need to try and push. He has an Infestor behind Spirit's army. Good Fungal. Gets 3 of the Ghosts and a bunch of Bio, which is forced to fight there. But the moment the Banings disappear, he needs to turn around. He's finding better engagements than I honestly would think, but these are not good enough, I think. He needs to change his approach a little bit at least.
Yeah, it's kind of scary, because let's face it, he's never going to mine anymore from that bottom right side base here. It's going to get cancelled one more time. Every single time you lose your Baneling, Spirit's going to move on forward, take out that base and run back to tank protection. It is indeed the top side that matters at the moment for Solar. Solar also does not have a bank anymore, is not really outmining his opponent by that much. It's at 2100 minerals to what, 1900 minerals. So add 1 mule into that equation, and all of a sudden Spirit is winning that income battle. I'm very afraid here for Solar right now. He's already down 18k. He's now taking that topside base, but taking that topside base is not really possible unless you bust open that planetary natural position. And even then, I think it's going to be so hard. Like, because at any point that Spirit has any reinforcements, he can just send them there and take it out. Spirit's even going to try and take that base. Is this spreading himself too thin, perhaps?
I don't mind the move, because it's anticipating what Solar is supposed to do, but Solar should kill the base at the bottom now. The moment he sees this army rotation, he needs to. He cannot let Spirit have that base with just 2 tanks being there. Like, that's absolutely not allowed, and he has to punish that. The Lurkers here will at least buy some time. It's annoying to push into a Lurker concave. You need to do it very slowly, but yeah, Solar is trying to counterattack now, where he should have counterattacked when the army was entirely at the bottom. Trying to take out an orbital, that is nice, but this is not a mining base. So not quite as important. Now also starts moving towards the planetary. Obviously, Spirit's units are much closer now to this position than they were before. So now he's trying to bust the planetary. It's so much more expensive than it would have been before. And he doesn't even get it. And he's going to lose so many Hydras on the retreat. Hydras are slower than Stun Bio units. And they trade terribly against Marines. Spirit moving back there a little bit, giving a couple of Hydras a second lifeline, but That was not it. That was absolutely not it from Solar, and Spirit is now in a commanding lead here. I know this feeling myself. You feel like you sometimes you misjudge your position because you feel like, okay, these trades were good enough, and I had all the economy I wanted, so I should be able to just run in there and deny his freshest base, like the moment he stands in the middle of the map. But Spirit was just positioned there with his entire army, and you need to go somewhere else. This is one thing which Dark does extremely well, for example. But Solar being a little bit too stubborn there with his approach.
Yeah, I think a couple of tanks just went down against the lurker trap in the middle, by the way. I think there was 2 or 3 tanks that fell there. I missed that. At the same time, a lot of Hydras will end up falling. We still have a double bio drop on the bottom side as well. Not sure what that is trying to achieve. They denied the last 210 gas on one of these extractors. As Spirit is going to continue. And Spirit is just... He's going to be outmining his opponent. He's going to continue taking better trades. And is already up 30 supply as well. So Spirit for the first time really in this game, in a very commanding lead. Before it felt like he was holding on for majority of the game. But now he is mining. He is well set up. Has a good army. And what can Solar really do at this point? I mean, triple Viper, 6 Lurker, only 4 Banelings. How can he take a good fight with an army like this? Unless Spirit falls asleep.
He needs to catch Spirit off guard, basically, either with some Lurker trap or while running somewhere where Spirit isn't, and then setting up the Lurkers and trying to kill everything else. So this is the first good move of Sora in quite a while, where he kills this planetary for basically free Spirit, completely abandoning this position, which I think is actually the correct move from Spirit, because, as I said before, all the fresh bases are at the top, so he can just play that part of the map. And as long as he denies this base from Solar, Solar's mining is completely gutted at this point. He even loses a lot of the drones, trying to rally them to the bottom fresh base, just running through the siege tank and the biofire, and at this point his army is just starting to become too strong for Solar to deal with.
Yeah, it's so funny that Solar now realized that that bottom base was very exposed. Well, before it was the reverse, right? The top base was exposed and the entire army was on the bottom side. So Solar just now starting to make good, well, just really good positional moves. Just spent so much time fighting his opponent, not utilizing his speed advantage that he had. And Spirit here is he's in an almost unlosable position right now, outmining his opponent significantly, and has 50 more supply already. Viper's gonna try and moving in. On top of that, the army quality is also quite poor here out of Solar. Just low bane count. The lurkers have died. This is all that Solar has, and he needs to go. He needs to do something, but I don't think he can.
Yeah, I don't think he can either, but he's trying his best to do something. I mean, he theoretically is only down 30 army supply, but it's just the army quality that is so much worse here for him. He finds an exposed tank here, gets a good blinding cloud off, gets a second good blinding cloud off, and he's trying to engage how he knows he needs to go, because Spirit is outmining him. GG is called, and Spirit takes the first map of the series.
Yeah, first map of the series goes Spirit's way. As we've seen this before, though, in this tournament, is where we have Spirit taking a map or playing well, and then so far not winning a series quite yet. But perhaps this is going to be the series that he needs, as Spirit here requesting a break. I mean, this was a long game, 27 minutes. A lot can happen 27 minutes.
Yeah, one thing that did, sadly, at least for us, happen is that Scarlet got eliminated in her match against Gumio, so that's a little bit of an update there for from the A stream. Obviously, she's our teammate, so sad for us, but good to see Gumio go through. And yeah, this game, it was... I think Solar was in a lead for most of it, until he engaged a couple of too many times into the gold base of Spirit, and at that point, it kind of became even, and then Solar just made some wrong moves. I think he set himself up well for winning the game once Spirit takes the 6th base, because Spirit did not have a bank, and he also didn't have that many extra CCs that he could keep replacing the original CCs with. So he set himself up well for once Spirit tries to expose himself, tries to spread himself further, but then the moment that happened, he didn't make the right moves. So that way, Spirit actually managed to come back into that game, even though he really didn't do that much. He just sat in his bases, he moved towards the middle of the map without engaging a couple of times. So he was mostly just camping all game and won in a purely defensive manner.
Yeah. A little bit sloppy out of Solar. Well, usually I think his movement is actually quite good. He's no Dark. Dark definitely, in my mind, one of the best things that Dark does is just setting up engagements and knowing where to fight. It's beautiful watching him maneuver in the late game, but I've always respected Solar's abilities as well. But in this game, definitely a couple of mess ups. Maybe feeling that he was far ahead enough that he could, you know, be a bit sloppy and just keep ramming his head into the same wall again and again and again. But that wall, it got fortified at some point, and your skull's gonna take some serious damage. That's what happened here. Next game, Lambo. I think we might have a bit of a first here this tournament.
Oh yeah, for us at the very least. They want you to change the observer interface to Pro 2020, by the way.
Oh.
I would have messaged you in game, but you sadly ignore messages from people that are not on your friends list, so that hurts my feelings a little bit. So I need to tell you that. But other than that, yeah, we have Ratu Set coming up for the first time ever on our stream. At least we didn't even see this in any of the mirror matchups that we casted, because usually one of the guys still doesn't like it.
Yeah. I think this might be a first for Katowice. I haven't seen a single game either that I was watching that was played on Radhuset. This might be the first time that it's being played, as this is a controversial map.
Yeah. 1, 2. It only shows 7 maps. It doesn't show a single game on Equilibrium or Radhuset, actually.
That is crazy. That is crazy.
Could have just stuck with a 7 map pool, I guess.
Yeah, could have stuck with a 7 map pool. Oh my god. Alright, first map on Radhuset. So, usually Terran players veto Radhuset in this matchup. That's correct, right?
That is correct, yes. Very much so. Terrans also sometimes veto Alcyone or Alcyone. Usually it's Equilibrium, Radhuset +1. The third one, there's not really any Zerg maps left, so they just veto preferential. It's preferential veto, so either they veto Golden Aura or Alcyone or Solaris, one of those. Even though those are also considered good for, or at least decent for Terran.
Yeah. And Spirit, late game monster, sees in this map a potential late game, or what are we looking at here?
It's either that or mech. I think this map is decent for mech. It's actually not a good late game map. It's very difficult to start taking your 5th and eventually 6th base. It's very easy for the Zerg to take the Terran bases, and it's very open map. Like, it is easy to find good engagements on this map later on. We're not gonna see him just making walls on his first 5 bases, and then Solar just can't attack without seeing walls in front of him. Because the extra bases, no matter which 5th base you take, is always super open. No matter which 6th base you take, it's always super open. So, I mean, yeah, I hope that Solar adjusts a little bit, and at the very least, he doesn't need to change his approach with just Hydraling Bane, hammering it home, trying to kill Spirit right then and there, but taking the extra bases from the Terran side is something that a lot of Zerg players started doing, and one thing that I think is very important to do as well.
I like it. As we're seeing pretty much the same setup here for both players. What is the greediest thing Terran can do, by the way? Is it possible to throw down triple CC before barracks, or is it bad because you want an orbital anyway?
Yeah, I don't think that's efficient. It will be CC, barracks, CC would be the greediest.
Does anyone play that?
eBay. I've seen it in the past. It's very often the kind of stuff that the underdogs pull out against someone like Cyril, you know, to try and get a map win. So usually the top players would not do that. It's something maybe a Riyadh would do against Cyril.
Yeah.
Like it can be a smart build. I've seen you Thermal play it on Thunderbird back in the day against Cyril as well. It's something that is usually like an underdog builder, because it doesn't really allow you also to pressure early on. So it's not like you can really outplay your opponent. It's just if your opponent plays too safe, you have a sick timing, they might underestimate the amount of units you have. You can get a cheeky win like that.
Yeah, I love cheeky wins like that. As Solar here is already mining out his potential third base location. It's going to be playing Gasless once more. Marine opener for Spirit this time around. So switching it up, as you mentioned, as the CC first player. Did Solar build 0 links? Yeah. I guess you get the scout in time. Or what?
No, if you go 15 edge, you can always build 0 links, because the queen spawns in time for the Reaper. Especially on bigger maps, but even on smaller maps. On smaller maps, you need to micro your drones a bit, but you can generally skip Zerglings if you go 15 edge. Otherwise, 15 edge would just be not viable if you were forced to build 4 links with it as well.
Third CC is going to get thrown down here. It is pretty much the build we were talking about, except there's a gas, so not really. In my mind, this is going to be like a proper gasless, fast triple CC, then double eBay as the next 2 structures. You get some quick 2-2 timings with that, don't you?
Yeah, you can. You can even go for some quick 3-3 as well.
Yeah, it sounds powerful. But for now, it's just going to be 2 Marines, a barracks building a reactor, as well as a factory. Spirit is looking for the next... Is that a 4cc? Oh, Lambo!
I mean, that is so Spirit-esque. It worked last game, but last game it wouldn't even really stop his production early on. This one just... Yeah, I mean... He's
What if he
taking
gets
it to
a
a whole
5th?
new level.
What if he gets a 5th?
No, that's too much. You need production at some point.
Yeah, but
That's not even good anymore. Because you... like, I don't think that kicks in time for your worker production to ramp up, and then you also can't lift it. Like, you don't have enough workers to saturate that. I hope he makes it into an orbital, though. I don't want to see him float this right away and try to take a planter. You have the score mixed, by the way. Spirit won first game.
oh, good lord. You're completely right. Man, I'm all over the place. In my mind, Solar had won that game, so I made a mental note to make sure that I put the score on Solar. You know, I sometimes have this as well. When I look at it, and then I get the score wrong fairly often. And I'm like, okay, I'm really going to pay attention. And this was one of those games because I knew it was going to be an easy one to get wrong. And then I reminded myself, like, Solar won it. Nice. I was proud of myself for remembering. This is like checking if you close the door before you leave and you just throw it open. It's like, I'm so glad I checked. So sick. Oh no. Alright, my apologies for that, everyone at home. It's been a rough morning so far. The wrong overlay and now this. Alright. What do we have here? We have a couple more barracks going up. Starport coming up as well. 4cc has finished up and is indeed an orbital. It's going to start producing some workers. 4 mules, of course, are very powerful by themselves. For the people not aware, a mule lasts 63.8 seconds or 64 seconds. And mines either 200 or 225 depending on the mineral patch you put it on, and you always put it on a close patch, and thus it's going to mine 225. So that extra 4cc is going to pay for itself pretty quickly just with the muling. It's like 3.5 minutes or so and you're going to be fine. Now, of course, that does mean that Spirit's timings initially are going to be much weaker because he's going to have less Marines. His production was later. But so far, it's not looking too bad, right? He got a couple of cars out. And on this map, usually you can't deal any damage anyway with cars because the first 3 bases are so compact. Like, what really is he giving up here with that fast 4cc? Like a much quicker medevac timing?
Yeah, it is map control and yeah, just pressure whatsoever. Solar is free to do whatever he wants. Literally whatever he wants. He can make 100 drones right away and that will be fine. The thing is...
100?
Last game, yeah, 100 drones. Like he can defend whatever pressure comes with the queens only, so it's not really too much of an issue for him. Instead, he's going Spire and he's gonna go up straight to 88 workers, I think, which is basically the same as playing like Lingbane Hydra and going up to 100 drones. One way or another, like last game, he basically played a more normal 3cc opener and he did absolutely nothing with the hand and Banshee. So, if anything, I like this better for Spirit because he does nothing. He let Solar do anything, but Solar also did whatever he wanted last game. And it still worked, so this has to be better then, right?
Yeah, that is it. I think the logic there definitely does check out. As we're going to have the Spire finish up, he's going to be aware of the fact that it's most likely going to be a Spire, right? It's so common on this map. I feel like 90% of the CVTs I see on this map, which have been 5 games total over the past 10 months, have just been Muta games.
Yes. Muta is very common on this map because you open up a second path at the very least. In general, the bases are close together, but you can only attack the first 4 bases from a single direction, which is the 4th base itself. So usually you would see the Zerg player always either go for Mutas or for drops, because otherwise you just cannot be offensive. As I said before, the Zerg needs to abuse the fact that his army is faster than the Terran's army and then try to get favorable engagements with the Terran not being in position with the correct amount of units. So let's say the Terran is at the front with everything, you can trade well with the Mutas and the 3rd base. If the Terran is too pre-split, you can attack with everything at the front. And as a Zerg, your army is faster, so you can make those rotations to make this type of stuff happen. And without Mutas, this map then becomes very hard to do this type of stuff and work with that advantage.
in this situation, I'm gonna say something a little bit crazy, Lambo. So stay with me, okay? What
Okay.
if, as a 5th base, you take this one?
And
And
why
then,
would
as
you
a
take-
6th, you take the bottom. You have full map control. You're playing Muta Ling Bane, and you
as
start
a
mining
Zerg,
your
okay.
opponent's bases. Like that is, you just start, and then you start working backwards, basically. Is that too early?
I thought you were talking about the Terran. I thought you were completely crazy. But
No,
yeah,
no,
you
that's
can
a Zerg,
indeed
that's
just
a
get
Zerg.
this as you can get this as a 6th base. You can get 5th and 6th at the same time, and even 7th base because you have that much money. You're max now, anyways. It is not crazy. It is actually something that I do against mech. Like when they camp with siege tanks, try to do this as early as possible. But even now, you can try to take it. The most likely scenario, if you especially take the bottom right, because there's no rocks in between, is that he just moves there and kills it. I think it's a little bit too close. But taking the top base is something that I definitely think is something he can already do.
Okay. Muta count has grown to a solid flock of 19, +2 starting on that as well. Of course, Solar ain't sitting still. He's moving into Hive. He's getting his 2-2 upgrades. He wants to start dealing a little bit of damage. Usually, we might see some attacks on a 4th base if you're playing Muta Ling Bane, but on this map, as you mentioned, that's very difficult. The real fireworks are going to start once that 5th lands, and that is right about now. Sensor Tower finishes up. Tank in the back is helping out, and the Mutas rotate on over as well. A lot of Marines still in the back, couple of Thors too, as I think that Spirit is most likely going to survive this, but his command center doesn't. So then what really was the point?
That was a sloppy fight from Spirit. He also didn't lift the Thor, which was just dying to +1 Zerglings very slowly while he was watching it. I have no idea why he didn't lift it, but that was a pretty big blunder. Yeah, it was a good fight for Solar. There's 5 more CCs coming up, so once again, this is not the end of the world. We've seen this a couple of times in the last game. This most exposed base is usually where the Zerg finds the best trades and ends up killing a base or two, but as long as you have new CCs coming up behind it, it tends to be fine for the time.
A little bit of a... Oh, well, I think we're going to get a new fight here. At least these links are trying to do something. As the Mutas are still harassing. Something interesting is that Spirit just decided to go straight into ship weapons rather than vehicle weapons. Is that for Liberator damage against Mutas?
I think it should be against ground, but yeah, if he tries to punch them up, Liberators actually can be very good against Mutas. It's mostly as a surprise though. If you use Liberators in not completely overwhelming numbers against Mutas and the Muta player just splits, Mutas are quite good against Libs.
Okay.
But I think it's mostly anti-ground, and also just for late game in general, the Liberators are good. So, not necessarily anti-Muta. I think there's anti-Muta as Ghosts and Marines. And Thors. I mean, he has enough anti-Muta as it is.
Does make sense. Mutas are going to find one more turret here. They're +2 not quite done. Once that finishes, these Mutas are going to be just a little bit more effective. As Solar's trying to take his opponent's gold base, this seems to me like one of the bases that is legitimately impossible to get. I think Marines are even capable of targeting the extractors, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure, but you can put tanks there. I've tried to take this base before for banter. The tanks can definitely shoot. You cannot mine from it. So
Yeah.
he should have tried to take the base at the top, which tanks I'm not sure that they can attack that. So
Yeah.
you can try to take it once you have Brood Lords, and then it's difficult for the Terran player to punish that. But he doesn't have Brood Lords, so I think it's probably the wrong base to take from Spirit side of the map. But I'm happy that he in general realizes his mistake and understands, okay, if I can't do anything, if I can't find good trades at the other side, let me just chill and try to mine out more of Spirit side of the map.
Yeah. So far, 6 Liberators, 8 tanks, a couple of Ghost out, as well as a Thor. It feels like the army composition of Solar or of Spirit is much better here than in the previous game. Much quicker already. Liberator's actually taking a pretty decent trade now. Attack themselves rather than the Mutas. Will need to be repaired, but I think that looked okay. Like -2 or 3 Mutas could have been, well, -2 more. And all Libs stayed alive. Ship weapons level 2 is halfway done as well. Nidus network on the way. I mean, it seems difficult for a Nidus network to do anything here, no?
Well, the Mutas can cover for it a little bit. I would have rather seen drops. Like, this map is good to get drops on because you can load up the Overlords. They can't really get shut down too easily. And if Solar ever picks off that one sensor tower, especially, it is very possible that Spirit is out of position. Solar, instead, most of the time, just hopes that his opponent pre-splits and goes with everything at the front. But Spirit is not doing that this time. And Spirit also started realizing towards the end of last game, he had nothing at this natural and just came with everything to the front. Like, Spirit adjusted towards Solar's playstyle, and Solar did not adjust to the way Spirit is playing. So that's why also we had the result in the first game. The way it ended. Solar tries to now mine from the gold base, which, as you said, should be impossible. Also is impossible. With just a single Liberator there. Zoning out the drones entirely. And Solar trying to find a good trade here. Which at the very least is zoning for the Muras to take off this CC. But there's so many more CCs where that came from, and he doesn't even get it this time.
Right now there's 11 orbital commands. There are 4 more vanilla command centers done, with 2 more on the way. So there's plenty of command centers to go around. Liberators on siege, absolutely destroying these Muralisks, by the way. Ghost in the back also taking a pretty decent fight. And to me it feels like Spirit's game here is going much smoother than in the previous map on Alcyone. Yes, Solar is mining a little bit more. Perhaps Spirit is denying his, well, Solar's mining of his own gold base with that Liberator. That's nice. Spirit also is aware right now of that topside base and is gonna send the Liberator there. Needs to deal with that at some point, though. He can't let that base mine too much.
Yeah, unless he denies the same base at the bottom. In that case, he can ignore it completely.
Yeah, because
Solar also didn't mine from that early on. Like, he just started mining, so as long as he denies the bottom base, he doesn't need to deny the top base, and he is playing with his main force at the bottom, so I think it makes more sense to try and deny the bottom base.
Yeah, Nuke starting here is gonna try to hit the top left side base. I'm not sure if Solar's paying attention. Yep, sees it, pulls away the 3 drones. Very nice. Quick control there out of Solar. This command center on the bottom left. This is gonna get taken out by the Corruptors here. It's gonna be Corruptor, Ultra, Baneling, Ling for now. No Vipers, no Infestors. Is it realistic to expect a single good fight in the upcoming 3 minutes here for Solar with an army comp like this?
If Spirit doesn't move out, realistic is a word. I mean, I don't think it should happen, but crazier things have definitely happened in StarCraft as Solar finally tries to take an engagement in between Spirit's bases where Spirit is out of position. I know he has to run through sensor towers to do so, but that doesn't mean that Spirit is always instantly there. So he at least forces Spirit to move and move away from his structures to defend different structures that he also has. Nuke landing on top of a mining base here, the original 3rd base of Solar. He kills 12 workers, a bunch of Lyra. Not the most impactful at this point, but very nice to see anyways.
Yeah, another nuke is going down, and this is taking away a lot of attention, if anything, right? Solar is having to look at all of his bases, making sure nukes aren't landing. This nuke is also gonna land. That's the 2nd nuke that hits. Do we have another nuke in store here? I don't think so. So he's gonna need to wait until he can research that. But that's quite a bit of damage, and that was quite a bit of time that Spirit managed to win. I think that's probably the most important thing. Solar now says, hey, it's my turn. You had 2 nukes. Planetary did manage to finish during all of this, and will be kind of a bit of a distraction here for Solar to hit something. You know, it's like a punching bag. Here, take a Planetary. I have plenty of command centers where that came from. Ghost count still extremely high. Liberator count, we're at what? We're at 10. I mean, this army that Spirit has is insane. Solar, by the way, is mining from that gold, and is actually getting quite a few minerals from there. Still...
I kind of hate that he put a Nidus there, because it focuses Spirit's attention there, and all Spirit needs to do to deny that mining is put a tank here. There's one single Ultra in that Nidus worm, so he couldn't load it right now, because nothing is shooting at it, but paying attention to something else. Now he looks at it, decides to unload it. Here comes the Ultra. Running into the natural, a lot of clumped up SCVs. He's not microing it though, so it instead hits a missile turret. I am so extremely surprised to not see a siege tank going there from Spirit, who is now trying to mirror the Zerg army movement, always being in position against that main Ling Bane Ultra force. That's already working with.
One Ghost is gonna get caught, and at the same time an Overseer is gonna get caught. A couple of Links go down as well. Ultra actually taking out every single, or well, basically every single turret here, as well as a lot of these SCVs. Liberator moves away as the tanks now siege up near the gold base, and will start hitting it from the high ground. Another nuke is gonna go down, so lots of action here on the map. At the same time, Solar moves in for an attack. Let's see how well Spirit is paying attention. I think well enough. Gets a couple of snipes off. All of these Banelings are gonna go down to the big tank shots. One more command center, one more orbital command will fall. As Solar, he caused a little bit of chaos, still has an Ultralisk burrowed in his opponent's 3rd base. So a 2nd Nidus now is gonna go up there for whatever reason. I feel like he's just throwing down Niduses because he likes the sound of it, because there's already one there. It's not like there's anything in there either. He's just trying to distract spirits. Like, oh, another Nidus. Look at this, my friend. Don't look at my main army trying to hit your bottom base, because that's what really seems to matter here for Solar. He's just has his entire army in one group and tries to take good fights, trying to take out bases, trying to kill part of the army. But Spirit really is under-defending on the top side every single time.
He is. I mean, Solar could just rotate his units towards the Nidus, load up in the Nidus, go with the Corruptors to kill that Liberator.
Yeah.
And once that thing is cleared up, it becomes a thorn in the side of the Terran, because he doesn't have a Planetary at the natural, obviously.
Yeah.
So you can constantly re-Nidus that, which means Terran kind of needs to either up his defenses at his own natural, or try to, you know, regain control of that side of his base. So Solar is playing it better than last game. He's abusing the speed of his army much better. He took much better trades throughout the entire game. He's only down almost 4k resources, which is really nothing compared to the way he's been trading last game.
Yeah.
But he needs to be a little bit more open-minded about his approach as to how he can attack and where he can backstep. Even though the base is basically outmined, and it might not seem as important, it is still a position that is super annoying for Terran if he loses it.
Yeah, and even just taking out these rocks, and then the moment you can clear that up with like when the Ultra was there earlier, if you had managed to mine out these mineral fields, that is almost impossible to defend at that point for Spirit, right? Because the Zerg can just walk in there at any point. It reminds me of what is that map that we had for a little bit with the backdoor base?
I'm not sure which one. Not sure which one.
It was extremely good for Terran until the secret passage got taken out. It was like a one Stargazers. Yeah, it is very similar to that. Like Zerg was always getting slaughtered on that map, but then whenever by some miracle they managed to take out these two mineral patches, it actually was very annoying for the Terran to deal with, and it seems much more so the case on this map. I'd love for Solar to actually pay some attention to that, but I guess Solar hasn't played this map that often either in this matchup, because usually it just gets vetoed.
Yeah, Solar is trying to engage now, which I can't see this engagement going well for him whatsoever, as he's running into so many tanks, so many Liberators, even somewhat of a bio-concave, so this fight was a disaster. I was about to say Spirit's army actually is not looking that good against Broodlord and Fester, because he's too ghost heavy. He's 28 ghost and he doesn't have any Thors. So going for a Broodlord transition would be the way to go. I feel like all of these ghosts being clumped up would have been nice if the Banelings actually manually detonated, but Solar also not paying attention there as he's being pushed. Solar now forced to remax on units that he kind of doesn't want to make, but Solar also Spirit overstepping very heavily on creep here, which means that the Zerglings for the first time ever are getting a good direct engagement against these ghosts. I mean, Spirit needs to make sure that he doesn't underestimate the bank that Solar has built up, because Solar hasn't been throwing away units as much as he did on Alcyone.
Yeah. Spirit is gonna try and take this bottom side base. Solar here lacking some larva actually. Despite building a lot of ultras here, still can't quite max out. Really just has a larva problem. At the same time, Spirit has a bit of a medevac problem. Look how low these ghosts are from earlier, that Baneling detonation in the natural. These ghosts are not being healed up at a high pace, because there's just a single medevac. 4 new ones are being produced. Ghost on the way out as well. But yeah, this is, it felt like Spirit got a little bit too excited there, and he pulled the trigger a bit too quick. Now has to split backwards as the Ultras are trying to fight him off creep. Solar needs to calm down a little bit as well. Both players just kind of need to get their armies together and try to find a good position. Solar believes he has found that position. He's going to start moving forward with these Ultras.
That's an okay Spirit's army is so low HP. The moment any Banelings hit there, this army is going to disappear there. As you said, there's no medevacs to save this whatsoever. These 4 Banelings can be the heroes, but good split from Spirit towards the bottom of that planetary. He boosts forward the medevacs, needs to unload that siege tank. As the Corruptors are on top of the medevacs, all these medevacs are going to go down. The SCVs are a little bit too late to repair, and this is the fight that Solar has been looking for this entire time. Spirit overextending, taking the wrong base. I don't think this was the base to take, as it is super exposed and so far away from his production. And this is the breaking point of Spirit.
Yeah, Spirit here is gonna get slaughtered. He's overstepping there once, and we see how it ends up going for him, losing almost all of his ghosts, not having enough medevacs in that army, not the ability to evacuate or just to heal up his units. It's a pretty freaking big deal. Knight is still alive as well on his opponent's natural, or I guess in Spirit's own natural. As Solar could still put a couple of links in there, could go there with the Corruptors to maybe take out that Liberator, but so far hasn't. And I don't think he is going to at this rate.
Yeah, I think Spirit will look towards trying to take the gold base now. I think he should resume marine production just in order to stay alive, as Solar smells blood in the water. He's trying to go for it. One tank is unsieged, all the rest of the tanks are unsieged as well. All of them clumped up as well, by the way. There's no ghost in order to blinding cloud this one Viper. Solar sees all of the tanks are clumped up. He goes for it, lands a blinding cloud on all of them, but all the banelings already died to the tank fire, so this was not the best engagement for Solar here.
Yeah, it really was. It felt like that had a lot of potential, but didn't quite work out for him. 3 ultras at the same time, hitting the natural right now. That Liberator is still alive, is gonna save the third base, as turrets are being taken out at a high pace. Corruptor's gonna fly over all of these Marines and Liberators. Finally, Solar was like, I'm gonna get rid of that Lib. Flying right over freaking, what is that, 20 Marines. Gonna lose him 3-4 Corruptors there. Not quite worth it, as that was an expensive little joke. Overall, resources lost in favor of Spirit. Still has mined out his bottom side base. Needs to start mining something because he just doesn't have money, doesn't have the income, and Solar does. Solar still has a bank. This is an issue. Spirit needs a new base, and he needs it, well, yesterday.
Yeah, Solar does not only have a bank, but he also has solid mining still. He's retaking the bottom base, which is very fresh. The top base also still very fresh, so he's basically mining 3 more bases at this point than Spirit did, because he already outmined his entire gold base as well. So the trades have not been good enough for Spirit to counteract the amount of extra resources gathered from Solar throughout this game. Spirit now trying to at least try and max out before he resumes his expansion strategy. And now that he hits 190 supply, he feels like he can move forward again, but this army is not as good as it once was. It's not the 30 ghost count that we looked at before. It's only 4 siege tanks, it's only 6 Liberators. It's a lot of Hellbat, a lot of Marines. So this army is relatively weak to just masses of Banelings.
Yeah, if these Banelings get to connect, these Marines are going to be in a world of trouble. It is a large bioforce, though. 168 army supply against 135. Here comes Solar, pretty much just from a single angle. Banelings not hitting the Marines on the north quite yet, as this looks like it was an okay engagement for Spirit. Ends up losing a lot, though, and Solar can remax. So perhaps in isolation, not that bad given what his army looked like, but in the context of the game, probably not brilliant.
Yeah, it was a victory during this fight, but yeah, he basically lost the war with it, because he lost all of his expensive units. He's trying to rebuild tanks. He only has 1 tank remaining, 2 Liberators remaining, which means just mass ultras should be the perfect response to what is left from Spirit here. He has 3 ghosts, 1 tank, and 2 Liberators. Everything else is not that great against ultras. There is still even creep. If Solar decides to engage now, he can force an engagement on creep, and Spirit needs this base. He's just not mining anymore. Like, his income right now is 300 minerals per minute against a solid 2.8k of Solar. So every minute that's passing while Spirit does not have these bases saturated is great for Solar. As long as he doesn't let these bases land, as long as he just keeps engaging, I think there's not that much that still can go wrong for the Zerg.
Yeah, Hellion is actually dealing a little bit of damage. Love to see it still. Spirit trying to be active, but it's just not looking that great in this game. Link's gonna take out the third base. 1 goes, not enough to save it. Here comes the Ultra army that you discussed earlier, and I do not think that Spirit is going to have enough. These 11 Marauders, these 2 ghosts, half a Liberator, half a tank, a couple of what do you call it, parasitic bombed medevacs, not gonna help out here. GG gets called, and Solar ties up this series, and that means that we'll be heading into a game number 3 here, Lambo, of a series that has already lasted relatively long. Been playing for about an hour now. 2 27-minute games.
Yep, I'm pretty sure the entire rest of the Group B is waiting for this match to finish, and it's just Spirit sitting there camping, and Solar who can't finish him. So yeah, you can't really blame Solar for it. Can kind of blame Spirit for it, but he's just trying his best at winning his games. Do you know how the trigger game ended up being? Because in that case,
Hero Marine.
2-0 for Hero Marine, which means Spirit is still playing for 5th place, which is extra points and a lot of extra money as well.
Yeah.
That we cannot forget about. So Spirit, you can see that both of them are still trying their absolute hardest here.
Definitely true. As we're just waiting for that third map. I wouldn't surprise me if we're taking a small break here just for the players. A couple of minutes, right? It's been 2 30-minute games. Not sure how strong the bladders of these guys are, but I like to go to the toilet. When I play, I think you have to visit the restroom more often, especially in tournaments. At least that's what I always feel. I feel like after every single game, I'd like to go to the restroom. Obviously, that's not allowed because I'll hold up the tournament more than Goody did back in 2012. But yeah, it's definitely, it's always difficult. Map 3 is going to be Solaris, by the way. What the heck did Spirit veto then?
Oh, he vetoed. So let's see, Equilibrium for sure, right? And then he just vetoes maps based on how hard it is to camp on them. So let's see here. He didn't veto the usual vetoes. It must have been maybe he vetoed side delta. And then it has to be one more. So let's look at it from
Hardlet?
Solar's perspective.
No.
Hardlet is Solar's veto, number 1. Number 2 is Hecate from Zerg. And then the third veto could be side delta, in which case Spirit would have vetoed Golden Aura. As well as Oceanborn. No, I think the Zerg veto must be Oceanborn. So I think he vetoed side delta and Golden Aura.
Okay.
Which is very odd vetoes, but for Spirit, somewhat understandable because the maps are kind of hard to camp on. Golden Aura, honestly, it's not bad for camping whatsoever, so I don't quite understand this one, but Spirit very often has this where he loses one game in a weird manner and then he doesn't like, as I said before, sometimes it's a strategy. This time it might
sometimes it's the map. Something's gonna get blamed. And it's not his own mistakes, let me tell you that. Yeah, this is it's an exciting little series that we have here. I'm glad we got this one. Solar versus Spirit. So we're waiting for the go signal from all the players. And we probably should also say that we're ready. Yeah. They don't wait for us. So we're always ready for some good StarCraft, aren't we, Lambo? Always.
I would never say no.
Exactly. All right. Solaris, map number 3. Is it possible that Solar looks at this and thinks to himself, you know what? I don't want to play another 30-minute game against this guy. I'm just going to do it different. I'm going to all in. I'm going to build roaches and links. And I'm going to win the game in 6 minutes. Is there a chance that this happens? Or do you say, nah, this is extremely unlikely?
There is an off chance that this happens, but I would expect Spirit to go Banshee here on this map, which would be safe against everything. If you want to go for a timing, maybe more so a mid-game timing would be something that I could see, like a 2-2 Link Bane timing, because Spirit has been cutting the extra production every single game so far. So if you wanna, if you want to punish that, Spirit is not weak from minute 3 to 6. He starts having less units than usual at minutes 8 to 9. So if you want to hit a timing, it should be around that time. I'm also not entirely sure if Solar checked the build order, like if he rewinded, because it is not obvious that this was 4cc. By the time his Overseer scout hit, the 4cc has already left Spirit's main base in the last game. So I'm not entirely sure how aware he is of the exact build order that Spirit went for. He also didn't opt to try and punish CC first, but as I said, if you try to punish CC first, it's not CC first, it's a build order loss. Which means, and you have to do it blindly, so trying to do that is very scary as well.
You mentioned earlier that you're expecting Banshee on this map. Is that due to some features of the map, or just it's short, or why are we playing Banshee? Why are we expecting this?
Because Spirit is a safe player, and on short maps, in order to be safe, you kind of have to go Banshee. And even though he usually doesn't, like, you can see him being a little bit more greedy, he still tries to be safe against, at the very least, early game aggression very frequently. So the same build that as he did on Alcyone, I could see him do here. He also does have some aggressive openers that also start with a Banshee. For example, one build that I gave him 4 years ago now, that he beat basically every top Korean with already, is a 48 SCV all-in. That is one that I could also see him bust out here. He likes to do that when it's in very important matches, where he just gets a 3rd CC fast, but then he gets very fast 5 racks, only one eBay, and then he goes for a very committed tank all-in.
Yeah, I've seen him play this quite a bit. Is that only with a single Banshee though, or is that still with double Banshee?
He can do it however he wants. Okay. It's just the idea of getting the 5th barracks up faster and cutting SV production in order to do that.
Okay, cool. Gonna have to wait and see what Spirit's plans will be here. As he throws down a factory for now. Solar, for the first time in this series, not opening up with a gasless either. She has a slightly quicker gas than before. Of course, this map is much more open. Almost impossible to defend your first 3 bases without link speed. Reaper's just gonna scout around as Spirit is playing it safe over here. We're fully expecting a 3rd CC to be built at some point in the near future. And then Spirit will have to review his tech choices to us. He cannot hide any longer, as there's no Marines here to deny this Overlord Scout. Is Solar just going to poke his head in here, see what's kicking off, and then piss off again? Is that just possible?
Yeah, that is absolutely possible. And I also think it's very likely. And I also think Spirit doesn't mind that at all, because he got away with the CC first 3cc Banshee, which is his favorite build order to do. So this is just I mean, Spirit just plays his openers without really trying to hide it in this series anyways. And he just says, I'm gonna out-macro you. I'm basically just gonna try to tank whatever you do and try to get ahead later on in the game. I'm not really trying to trick you here in the early game, so... he indeed doesn't make a Marine and try to delay his tech lab for it. Instead, he makes a tech lab, which means Solar has complete and full scouting information. And that also means that basically there is no blind counter to this build. I've talked about this the last day, yesterday when we were casting Clem, I believe. There is just no counter to this build where you get a build order win as a Zerg. Yeah. You can't just Nidus this. It's safe against everything. You can't play Muta, especially on a short map, because it still dies to a tank push. Or you still at the very least can get behind against a tank push, so you can't start your upgrades right away. There's no real blind counter to the build that Spirit is doing, so it's not the biggest deal that it does get scouted.
Alright. So you do see the Cloak Banshee's coming out right now. Reaper just kind of roaming around, seeing if he can get some information, maybe get something done. So far hasn't actually gotten any information or gotten anything done, so neither of these goals has been achieved. Of course, it's just nice to have a little bit of pressure on the map, just pretending that you're trying to deal damage. Sometimes it's good enough to force out a bunch of links. So far, Solar surviving with 8 links. One of the things that always strikes me when I watch Solar play is that he hardly ever loses games in the first 6 minutes. He is very good at making sure that nothing weird happens. He gets extremely high drone counts really quickly, it feels like, as well. And then just holds everything off. Like the first 6 to 7 minutes, I think Solar is one of the cleanest players. Like, just good macro, solid creep spread, and not really struggling at all against these rotations that Terran can do that other Zergs might just fall apart against. Like, how many times have we not seen just players dying to Clem's first 6 or 8 Hellions, and then the Banshee follow up? And Solar is just so freaking good against that. It's really quite impressive. As he's just going to continue droning up here, up to 65, 66 already. What drone count are we looking at usually in this particular setup?
79. I think usually you go drones to 79. With the only Zerglings that you need to make are the ones against the early Hellions. And then afterwards, 79 is 4 mineral lines saturated perfectly, plus 5 gases. This is the normal setup, at least for short maps. If he was to play Muta, it would obviously be 82 plus, because he would try to take extra gases. Not the case here. Spirit has hidden his 2 Banshees away. This is the only time he has the actual chance to deal early game damage. If the Zerg doesn't know exactly where the Banshees are coming from, tries to get 1 drone, misclicks there, damages a queen. That's about the early game damage that he got so far. Sora also pulling away the drones, but Spirit not really paying attention. This is... I mean, he's just trying to execute his build order perfectly, macro-wise. He's not so much trying to find damage, because it's just the way Spirit likes to play. As he also gets supply block, so that's a bad look, because he didn't really do anything with Banshees either.
Yeah, that's not great. Hellions very defensively set up, making sure run-bys can't happen. It's not like he's super actively trying to deny a creep. He killed a couple of tumors earlier up north. But now he's just idling near the rocks, really. He's not the most active player at the moment. 1-1 is about to finish up. Combat Shield's about to finish up. And that's when we're really expecting Spirit to start doing something, if it is that he wants to do something. Because that is still, of course, always going to be a question. It's completely possible they just kind of sits back. You're always going to move out with your Marines or your Medevacs, but these tanks, they don't necessarily need to join.
He still has the Hellions alive. I know he sometimes, if he likes to move out, it could be with everything. And then together with the Hellions, he can push even with the tanks. He does not opt to do that this time. Instead, he just plays it super passively. I have to say that one of the things that I 100% agree, I think Solar is probably the second most solid early game player after Cyril. In every matchup, actually. He's just very solid overall in the early game. But he plays it super safe with the queens, so that his creep spread actually suffers a bit. He doesn't have the queens at the front always, So his creep threat is not actually that good. Like, he's trying to take a 5th base right now, but there is no creep covering for it. A lot of transfuses used up, but no real damage being dealt here from Spirit, whereas Solar went up straight to 87 drones at this point, also going for 7 gas right away. So I would not be too surprised to see Solar opt to go for Vipers this game, actually, or rather Lurkers. Is one thing that we've seen a little bit of in the first game. But yeah, the Hydra Ling Bane Viper into the Lurkers maybe a little bit earlier this time.
Yeah. As we have Spirit coming out with a big push. This is what you were mentioning earlier, just a full-out push here. Hellbats around, tanks are all here. Spirit realizing there's not that much creep heading towards that 5th base, believes that maybe he's capable of doing something. Solar sees this and is gonna need to cancel a couple of those Banes. His Baneling count is at 17 currently. Muscular Augments completing as well. We're gonna need to see one hell of a setup here in order to defeat this position, no?
I'm surprised he didn't take this fight, honestly. I think Zerg would have won this fight always. This was not a good position because it was right around the speed zone. The tanks are literally in the speed zone now. Now he has a better position for one of the tanks at the very least, but the tanks are very exposed. Solar respecting Spirit a lot there. He says, I got away with the drones that I have. I can just expand towards the bottom and not care about this position. But I think if he decided to go for it, he could have, as Spirit just moves out once again with the Marines. I think this is due to him just missing some medevac production cycles and thinking that Solar will go here with everything. In which he is right. This is the correct assumption. He does get the cancel on one of the bases, but he loses a couple of tanks for it. In the main army, even stems forward and he's trying to focus fire down the 4th base of Solar, and he's gonna get it as well. Solar completely out of position. Now he F2s everything towards here. Okay, no, he didn't. He actually left some units. He left some units back. So Solar playing it well now, but back to his original 3 bases is the Korean Zerg.
Yeah, that's not great for Solar, as Spirit's gonna add on these extra barracks as well, continue sending more Marines towards the bottom side. No 5th base possibilities that are realistic. Good snipe there. 1, 2 Banelings go down. 3rd Baneling doesn't get sniped. And as we see the pickup, 2 more medevacs, however, are moving over. 4th base moving into position as well. We have a small little fight here on the top. There's still a tank helping out. Triple Hellbats as well, protecting that tank. Not sure if that's gonna be enough. I don't think it is. 2-2 not finished here for Spirit either. As I think he might be trying to go towards the main base. Could go for a cancel on this 5th, which would obviously be nice, but could also go for a attack towards the main. There are spores in position, but can just boost past that. Solar's gonna scout it just now. So the boost is active. Is he gonna jump right into these spores? He's gonna try. That's a risky move here, Lambo.
That's a risky move, but I think it was forced by Solar attacking Spirit's own 4th base. He killed 7 SCVs. They forced the planetary to cancel and lift up. So Spirit felt the need to do something on the other side of the map because he saw Solar was attacking with everything. Solar actually moved across with his main army as well towards Spirit's 3rd base. So Spirit thought he had to do something, but Solar left enough at home that he's fine. He also moved back right away the moment he saw that he gets damage on the 4th base. He's like, okay, this will be enough damage. If I go home now and I don't take any damage, even on my own 4th base, I'm still mining more than you on your 3 base setup. So that's why we see this huge supply lead now from Solar. We see it reflected instantly, as Spirit never got to mine his own 4th base. He is not even on 6 gas, so he's really struggling right now, and he needs to calm down a little bit because there's gonna be a huge wave of aggression incoming from Solar.
Yeah, even something like a Lurker push right now would be super difficult here for Spirit to hold. How many tanks does he have? He has 5 tanks, which I guess is decent. The defensive positions on this map are quite okay, but if you have like 3-4 Lurkers coming from this top side just above the speed zone on the 3rd base, there really isn't a whole lot holding Solar back. Are there any Vipers on the map yet? Yes, there are 3. Spirit's in serious trouble.
He is in serious trouble, and on this base he doesn't actually have a free 4th base as well, so he needs to pre-split between his 3rd and his 4th, which means Solar's strategy so far, which is to just attack the most exposed base, would go way better. I am surprised by the fact that Solar hasn't felt more, you know, he doesn't feel the need to attack yet. I think he would have just went even with the first 100 energy of the Vipers. Oh my god, the Vipers are right in front of the Marines. No one's paying attention.
Hello?
Please just... Okay, both of them realizing at the same time, so the Vipers barely get away. That was actually a scary moment for either of them, because the moment the Vipers go down, Solar cannot actually attack anymore. And yeah, I mean...
Could have been a couple of nice parasitic bombs there as well, to be honest.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, these medevacs would have taken quite a beating. free parasitics. Just gonna go back and get some more energy. That's not gonna be necessary because he didn't cast any spells. Adaptive Talents is about to finish up. Solar now moving in towards this third base with pretty much his entire army. We see SCVs being evacuated instantly. Good move there out of Spirit as the Vikings help out against the Vipers and the Vipers help out against the tanks. I think this orbital command might just end up falling, no? It's gonna be pushed back by the Marines. Marines, of course, trade well against Hydras as the Banelings had died. There was nothing really to buffer anymore against the Marines. Felt like, you think he should have gotten there with the right click? Nah, it's too much HP, maybe?
I think he probably would have gotten away with all of his Hydras. I think it's the sensible choice here to move back the moment the buffer in front of the Hydras disappears. So yeah, I don't hate this decision from Solar. As I said, like the Terran's position gets the weaker the more he expands, and it should become easier theoretically for Solar to find good engagements. So it's important to not lose your advantage in an earlier engagement before this actually happens. The one bench is still trying to do something. The perfect amount of units split up for that one single medevac drop, which also goes down. Spirit just trying to keep Solar on his side of the map to alleviate the pressure that he's feeling from the Zerg side. As he continues to just sit home and tank, this planetary is completely done, which means it will help a little bit, but that also means that it cannot lift anymore. And I don't think Spirit is in position enough here, with enough of his army to hold this base. As the 5th base goes down, most of the SCVs get out alive though, and Lurkers once again enter the main base of Spirit.
Yeah, we'll be attacking some of these SCVs on the low ground as well as trying to take out this production. I'd love for one Lurker to split off just to go to the mineral line in the main base. That is not quite happening yet. Tanks are moving back, Ghosts are moving back as a double drop is distracting Solar's main army. If Solar has the clarity of mind right now to move on the map, he could probably take out one more command center pretty much for free. And even this third base is extremely exposed with just a single tank defending it. Look at this. The entire army of Spirit went into the main base. There are no Hydras right now here at this command center. Otherwise, this command center would be freaking toast.
Yeah, even if there were Banelings for the Zerglings, he could have busted the planetary. This is not a good fight though. He runs into it. Is distracted himself with the Lurkers. A lot of these Zerglings go down for free, so that was not a pretty fight for Solar. At Spirit's own 4th base, he doesn't even need to be that aggressive anymore. Spirit is the one that needs to expand. His main, natural, and soon also 3rd base will be mined out. And he will just have a lot of SCVs doing a whole lot of nothing, because they have nowhere to mine from. So Solar can chill a little bit. I mean, every single time he does get up the Nidus Worms and he knows Spirit is distracted, it is still good to engage, which is exactly what he's trying to do now. Only a single tank is here in range of the planetary, and it dies before it even sieges. The planetary is exposed, a lot of SCVs with it. The planetary goes down, and Solar still gets out with most of his Hydras. Great trade there for Solar.
Yeah, one Lurker still hitting the bunker, as well as the depots over on the 3rd base. Spirit in a world of trouble, cannot manage to establish his 5th base. Doesn't even really manage to establish his 4th either, as 30 more Banelings are being morphed in right now. What's the Lurker count still at? We're still at 4, as this bad boy is going to move in forward. Nidus Worm once again going down near that 3rd base location where there just aren't enough units. If at any point Solar decides to go there with his main army, I think Spirit's going to be in a world of trouble as well. There are no sensor towers spotting any moves. There are not enough orbital commands for infinite scans either, as Spirit once more is attempting to get this 5th base up, and Solar says, no, 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 my friend. Not today. He's gonna rotate immediately towards that 3rd. Vipers, where are you? There's a single Vipers, not with his army. And there's quite a few tanks, actually. And this rotation defensively out of Spirit was actually very good. It's gonna stop the 3rd base from falling, but that 5th base still ain't mining, Lambo.
Yes, in a panicked state that Spirit is, I think one thing that you can do as Zerg, which is super efficient, in a hectic situation like this, is just adding Borrowed Infestors. All of the turrets have gone down. There's no detection for him. This is how he could orchestrate the finishing blow, as now he's trying to do it anyways with a decent Blinding Cloud on top of the ramp. Forces the bio units back, kills 3 tanks in the process. Spirit also not lifting the new CC, and he doesn't actually have that many extra CCs left to replace those with. He can't even max out anymore, and his mining is basically non-existent as well. He's getting severely outmined. He also doesn't have that much of a stronger army anymore. I still would favor Spirit in a direct engagement, but not by that much.
Yeah, Nidus Network trying to go up in the main base, but a tank is in position to deal with it. 3rd base has not been mining, as SCVs are gone, and well, the command center is in the air, which is probably also why the SCVs are gone. Fifth base, or well, this is one of the earlier orbitals now going to try to move over towards the fifth base tank. At the third's going to get taken out. More SCVs will fall as well. Solar has taken the top base, has taken the bottom base, and is just waiting for the next engagement in which he hopefully can just straight up win the game, because Spirit just can't really remax anymore. It doesn't have income, like, whatsoever, practically.
Yeah, and even worse, 4 of his tanks, which is basically the entire army that is here, is found completely unsieged. Solar can run up the ramp even though he's clamped up a bit. It doesn't really matter because those tanks are just starting to siege up. The Blinding Cloud is casted and GG is called. Solar takes the series 2-1 and thus advances in second place in this group, whereas Spirit finishes in 6th.
Yeah, impressive little performance there out of Solar. Second place, not bad at all. Spirit, once again getting close to a series win, but she's going to have to be happy with that map. That means she's going to get...